heard, there isn't a whole lot of self-evaluation that's being done. And I think primarily because it's confusing to know how to do it, because there's this political undertone that there's a lot of shifting and a lot of committees are a little more unstable. We have a very unique committee in that we have been kind of continuously, we're operating, we have good collegiality, and that makes this tool very possible because we actually look at it, think about it, and then use it and incorporate it in goal setting. This is an opportunity to share that with the wider school committee universe and say, hey, this is our tool, this is what we've developed. I don't know if you'd be interested in doing that, because I think this would actually help other school committees.
I'm fine with it.
We make it interesting and grade each other.
What are we going to assign
Everybody
each
in
other?
the committee grade everybody else on the committee.
Where did that come from? That was so unrelated to what I just said.
I was just
No,
thinking.
I
I was just
agree.
thinking of it.
I have no problem with. Does anybody have any problem sharing with
The
this?
public judges us.
Right.
Yeah.
But in terms of sharing this with other school committees, I'm
No, I don't
I'm
have
fine
a
with
problem
that.
with
Would you be interested in making a presentation at MASC in the fall?
I think that would be a great
it.
idea.
I nominate Karen.
I was going to nominate Karen also.
I'm bringing Cliff.
I'll second it.
I'm bringing.
I'm gonna nominate Karen for
You've
it.
been to
Consensus.
MASC before, right?
Yeah, that's good. I wasn't able to go last year, but the previous year I went. And it
I
was
think
great.
I think that makes a lot of
It's in
sense,
Hyannis.
and that would give us some nice.
So we didn't steal
visibility.
this from another school committee. We did this.
No, this came from
This is
Mask.
adapted from
Remember
our
at
Mask
MASC?
school. But I think that what I learned from this process is that, you know, if you're sitting in a town, not a city, there are differences. If you're sitting in a committee that's contentious versus one that's established and has a long history of working together, there are differences. And this helps to see the gaps. So we discovered really two major gaps: our understanding of our role in promoting student achievement, how to make better connections, and then, you know, some of our work around our own professional development and the school councils and understanding that. So we identified a couple things that are important. This tool allowed us to do that, and we did it in a respectful way. So I think we should share it and basically toot our own horn, because this is pretty awesome. I'm all for promotion.
Maybe we should sell it.
In the improvement
Can't
from
sell
last
something
year
that is-
to this year.
Is it a lot of improvement?
I don't know if we can sell
I
something
think-
that we stole.
Everybody ought to give us
From Lindsay.
a pretty good pat on the back.
That's
for
great.
that. It's
No, but I think that.
substantially
But I think the
less.
But maybe if we evaluate each other, we could sell those.
Yeah.
Cliff has mentioned the improvement from this year to last year, and I think it's reflective of when we did it the first time, we looked at what are some things we aren't doing as well. And with the help of the superintendent, the business manager, and other administrators, so now we have a couple more things that
Yeah,
we
that's
brought up
exactly how
today.
goals should
And
be
it's
set.
but it's working.
Most of the time, I don't know, you know, in the first year of the committee, we set goals by sort of saying, what did we do last year, and having sort of anecdotal, oh, well, maybe we should put a goal here, or not to comment on the, you know, previous administration, but that's how it was done. This is using data to drive us forward. So now that this tool is pretty consistent, we might tweak it a little more. We can then look incrementally over a couple of years and see where we're at.
I personally would like to see some kind of online dashboard that helps us with charting some of the educational progress.
That'd be
Whether
great.
it's, you know, MCAS,
Yeah.
you know, things like that, and just post it up there online that we can log into and look at all these different types of spreadsheets and charts. I think
Charts
that
would
would
I'm
be
going to show you
interesting.
that tonight.
The DART tool is a great tool for that. We actually saw it at an MASC meeting, and I've played with it many times. But I also think some of the system level indicators that are not part of DART are important to school committees as well. So helping to set some of those would be helpful.
That's a great suggestion, Mike.
Very good.
Any further discussion on the self-evaluation tool? Okay, before we move to the next agenda item, this might be a year early. I'm starting my campaign for my fourth term, but I do want to mention that I gave up my Celtics playoff tickets tonight. So
Wow.
I can hear the collective sigh in the TV audience
Boy.
to be here for this meeting. So
I'll tell you, you've lost a lot of respect
I agree.
from myself and others.
You want
I
to
don't know if that's-
reevaluate the
no,
self-evaluation.
that's-
actually, my self-evaluation might just have gone down after making that statement.
I
But
could have given it a mic myself.
I
We-
know,
we
really.
would be at the game.
I take my service seriously.
We do
All right,
too.
let's move to the next item. We have policy review, revision, continued first reading of policy JC-R, student behavior and regulation. Superintendent Wells?
Yes, if you turn to the JCR in your packet, last time we came together, suggestions were made to include some additional language in this policy. So I'm going to point out to you where it has been included. On the first page of the policy, under number 4, from a registered physician or nurse practitioner, that is in
Okay.
there now as requested. On the next page, under disciplinary due process, under long-term disciplinary sanctions, I've included the phrase that was also under short-term, and it reads, except where circumstances require the student's immediate removal from the school environment, and then it goes on to read as it did previously. Under the appeals process, it was recommended that the parents, guardians, and students will have the right to appeal. And so anytime where you saw parent or guardian, the word student has been added, or where you saw student, parent and guardian has also been added. So it's the same phraseology throughout the appeals process, and it appears 4 times. Okay?
There is a typo on page 3.
Page 3.
Last paragraph that is not struck out, 3rd line down. Principal shall further have the authority, that's misspelled.
Principals shall further have the, yes, you are right. That needs to be corrected.
Is that near the end?
Yes,
Yeah,
at the,
it's with a J, right?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, it should be a G.
I think that's
I
the only
missed
other
that.
thing I caught. It is not sensitive.
Thank you.
Jerry said it should be a G instead of a J.
Oh, Woburn does that to people.
Is that what happened there with Tim Hoover in high school, Jerry?
Up at the top of page 3, under power to suspend, short-term suspension, it is corrected to read for repeated misconduct of a less severe nature.
Okay.
And then under long-term suspension, expulsion committee needed to be capitalized, so that has been corrected. And under that same place where Karen just took us in the last paragraph, there's a sentence that has been added. The student shall be provided with due process prior to the imposition of an expulsion in accordance with MGL. It just cited MGL, so we've added that phraseology as had been recommended. Those are all of the changes to the continued first reading of JCR.
Right, these were all the recommendations we made
All of
last
them.
week.
That's correct.
So, any further discussion on this first reading? And if not, I will take a motion to approve the first reading of policy JC-R.
So I continue to have problems with this.
Okay.
But
Well,
I can wait till our next reading. I don't mind not doing it.
yeah, but if we,
If we change it, then we'll have to go back to a
first reading.
first reading, I think.
Okay, well, I think what my difficulty is the intersection of this policy, which references physical behavior and in relationship to our bullying policy. I don't see that they intersect very well, and that makes me nervous. So,
Are there specific things, I guess so.
I
With,
think I'm looking for a reference to our bullying policy. If this is a chronic issue and a student defends himself because there is no teacher present or no staff member present, I don't want to see that kid get kicked out and expelled.
Well, I don't think it says that. It's just saying self-defense is not considered an intentional act under this regulation.
I understand that, and I have a problem with that. That's
Yeah.
my problem.
Okay.
I may be the odd man out, but I just wanted to express it.
where is that, where is that section that we're referencing right now?
Well, I think she's looking at
That's
number 2.
Number
Yep.
2, on the first page.
It doesn't say self-defense in there anymore, right?
Right.
It does not, but I just want to be clear that when a student is being physically beaten on school property as a result of being bullied constantly and they're defending themselves because there is no adult present that they can go to and say, can you help me? I want to make sure we have safeguards for that
Yeah.
student.
I mean, this doesn't preclude a student from raising that defense, right?
It doesn't. I just feel that
You know,
there's a slight.
I'm just not sure how you, yeah.
unless
So you
we
want an
reference our-
affirmative,
I just want to firm it up a little bit that there, either we reference our bullying policy in here or some kind of acknowledgement that there is a difference.
How would we reference the bullying policy?
Literally reference the bullying policy.
Yes.
I just wanted to chime in for a second. That actually, I was involved in a scenario like that during my time at the middle school. I was defending myself while we were on a field trip, and I ended up getting suspended along with the person who bullied me.
Right.
And they did mention that it was because of the the policies that were in place. I'm not sure if it's changed since then, but
Right.
Thank you for
Definitely
sharing
should
that.
So I think, so do we just, we have to cross-reference, you're saying you'd like to cross-reference the bullying policy somewhere in here?
I want to find a way to do it, and I think it is in section 2, and I don't consider it self-defense, but I feel like if there's not an adult present, I just have a problem with that. I do not want to see a student get suspended and have that remain on their record if they were in a situation where they were not able to find an adult to support them in that instance.
And how does the bullying, do you know how specifically the bullying policy addresses self-defense, if it does at all?
It basically identifies it, and then the student that is being victimized, please, the policy people probably remember this better than I do, but if they're being victimized, I believe that has to be investigated, and they're not immediately suspended. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So then that would make sense to me to reference that policy in this.
I'd have to go back and read it in more detail. I'm not comfortable sitting here saying.
No,
that.
but I'm just saying that I don't want to just throw it in there, but it makes sense to reference that because it has a little bit of a different recommendation or a result
Right.
than what this says.
I want to be consistent.
But we need to approve this tonight, don't we? On a first reading. 'Cause
Can we
we're
come
getting-
back to it in a second reading? If I've raised it at this point, can we make an amendment during the second reading? I think we can.
If we're not adding any language, we're just referencing another policy.
That's all I really want to do is reference it so that there is recourse and they're connected.
And
Yeah, I think we could do that. I think we could approve this in first reading if we incorporate a change.
But the change would not be, actually.
Well, it
would
depends
be
whether it's
substantive.
substantive or not.
It could be substantive
You know,
if
if it's
we're,
sub- yeah, if it's
if we're
substantive.
referencing another policy, then it
It
could
could
be
be,
substantive.
it could be.
You can always bring up a policy again.
When's our next meeting is next week.
There's a lot of,
I wish I had the
there's
policy
a lot
with
of
me, I'm sorry.
protections left in this document that provide ways out of,
There's
not-
appeals every step of the
there's
way.
appeals all along the way, and
And it, like I said, it doesn't preclude
It
somebody
doesn't
raising
preclude.
self-defense as a defense.
Right, we don't say specifically that self-defense is okay, but we also don't say specifically that you
Right.
can't defend yourself.
Exactly.
Right.
Which the assumption is if you don't say it's,
It's a compelling argument.
yeah.
Okay.
Can you do the first reading and then approve it as amended?
I don't think so. I think once we
No,
do
you-
the first reading, if we amend it, I think we have to go back
we're amending
And do
it.
and
another
start
first?
over again. Right.
All right, well,
You're gonna amend something after you've approved it, obviously, 'cause
But
that's
we
what we
can,
do.
we could come back
We
and
could-
amend this.
we could amend the bullying policy to reference. I mean, we could do a
Right.
number of things. So to prevent impeding process, I've raised the concern that I have, so I feel it's been sufficiently
And
heard.
I will ask the superintendent to go back and look at the bullying policy, and maybe, as Karen says, we can look at amending that
Well,
to
I'd-
reference this, or,
If we're going to amend this, I'd need to go back to the lawyer and ask the lawyer to go through the bullying policy. And because we had a lawyer come up with this based on some incidences that have occurred recently.
Right.
And it's written in such a way to cover many circumstances.
and we're following state guidelines, correct?
Yes.
I mean, this
So-
isn't written in terms of no tolerance. In other words, as he suggested, the fact that two people got in a fight and one was being bullied, we're not saying, it doesn't matter, you're both suspended. What we're saying is that there's nothing that precludes one person from raising the defense that they were acting in self-defense as a result of bullying or for any other reason.
So how about this, we take a vote on the first reading tonight, but at the same time, the superintendent does go back and talk to the lawyer and asks the lawyer to look at both this policy and the bullying policy to see if we sometime in the future need to
We could revisit the bullying
revisit
policy.
either the bullying policy or this policy.
Yeah, I would
and-
be satisfied with that.
If he's not able to do a crosswalk between now and the next meeting,
That's not a problem.
That's,
not a
we can
problem.
do it afterwards, we can amend it,
Okay,
right? We
so
can amend
I-
the
Yeah.
policy at any
You can always
time,
amend it.
right?
Okay, so I can still put this
Yeah.
on the agenda for next Monday night for a
Yeah.
second reading?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll have a motion at this point to
moved.
approve first reading, motion by
I'll
Mr. Bowers,
second.
second by Mr. Venezia. with the stipulation that the superintendent